Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. It's me. Yeah, this week will be an English version, so give me some courage and let's go. Today I want to talk about a new book that just came out in Hong Kong in July 2024. It's called 要試聽一集Sunrises as Your Room, Hong Kong Television and Mainland-Hong Kong Relations. Some Hong Kong media says it might be the first book to study Hong Kong dramas in depth. The topic it covers is clearly political, but given the current environment of cultural censorship in Hong Kong, the fact that it was published means it has avoided content too sensitive. Despite knowing it would face many obstacles, the text does not come across as overly dark, sad, or flattering to the powerful. Instead, it's filled with self-encouragement and comfort, which I have found really touching. Of course, it still has some weakness that we can talk about it later. As regular, I will introduce the author of the book, Professor Zhou Lulu from Education University of Hong Kong. Has done a lot of work on K-pop and fan studies. I've been following her for a while because I really like her approach. Unlike some researchers in communication who focus heavily on theory and often separate their identities as researchers from those of fans or audience, she does not overlook the relationships between fan communities. Some researchers lack real fan experience but still studying it, which can disconnect their studies from real-life social interactions. But she manages to be both a professor and a fan at the same time. For instance, the first time I noticed her was she was a guest on her friend's podcast channel, talking about her favorite CP from the group Girls' Generation. I really appreciate someone can blend their academic and personal life in such a useful way. I learned about this book because her participated in a forum at Hong Kong Book Exhibition in July. On the cinema, she shared insight from the book about several TV series that describe the relationship between mainland China and Hong Kong. I mentioned earlier, in the US or other parts of the world, it's common to just say Hong Kong for Hong Kong, China for China, but when discussing these places within context of Hong Kong, you must legally refer to them as Hong Kong, China, and mainland China. Using just Hong Kong and China can be very risky and might even stop your conversation before it starts because of political sensitivities. So from the title itself, the book shows the power imbalance between these two territories with vastly different land areas and power. It reveals the deep impact on all aspects on Hong Kong's politics. Right. This book starts with Hong Kong dramas from 1960s. In the earlier shows, characters from mainland China were often portrayed as poor but hardworking people who came to Hong Kong to work or marry for a better life. But later, they became as greedy, cunning businessmen. Both types of characters were pretty one-dimensional. After Hong Kong returned to China in late 90s, interactions increased a lot, and the complexity of mainland characters in dramas began to show. They became wealthier and, in their pursuit of efficiency, were willing to sacrifice many of the honors that Hong Kong prided itself on, such as respect for the rules of law and various institutions. I'm pretty sure in the books there were some perspectives that aren't openly discussed, but I can point them out. Portrayal of these characters symbolizes how Hong Kong after 1997 felt threatened by the rapid rise of China's economy. Hong Kong had always felt a sense of superiority due to its earlier economic development. However, as the economic gap narrowed, a different kind of cultural superiority began to be emphasized in the minds of Hong Kong citizens. Behaviors of these characters in drama also symbolize a kind of arrogant authority that doesn't try to understand any of local sentiments. These authority looms over Hong Kong's small territory and population. This backdrop is linked with change in China's international image from 2003 until 2019, and the multiple political system reforms attempt to be used in Hong Kong that met with strong public opposition. This period of continuous conflict made the local Hong Kong population's feeling towards China, their homeland during colonization days, very complex. They could not simply move into a post-colonial reflection after return to PRC. At the same time, with the rise of local consciousness, there emerged doubts about facing a new round of colonization. So the seminar was really not enough for me. Including the book itself, it always seemed to hover around the edges of this complex love and hate geopolitical framework. Even though she mentioned many dramas more in the book, like the classic one, The Greed of Man, 大時代, which talks about Hong Kong stock market and family feuds, and last year's hit in China, The Queen of News, 新聞女王, about broadcast journalism industry, using them to discuss the relationship, just didn't hit the mark. My own experience tells me that there are other works that more clearly reveals the fragile emotional ties between these two places, so I left a message for the author on social media asking why she didn't mention To Be or Not To Be, 離心不做香港人. Hong Kong drama from 10 years ago. The English title, To Be or Not To Be, doesn't really hint at the theme, but if you translate it directly to Not To Be Born as Hong Kong citizen again, you get a sense of tragic declaration of local identity. This phrase was also a popular meme back then, used to mock how ordinary Hong Kong people dealt with policies from China's central government, like attempts to restrict free speech or delays in promised electoral reforms. It reflects the helplessness of locals whose interests are compromised despite fierce resistance that struggles to secure a safer existence. This story is about two sisters from Guangdong. The younger sister sneaked into Hong Kong as a child to live with relatives and got a British-style higher education, becoming a successful PR woman. Older sister stayed in a small city in Guangdong, didn't go to college but got married, studied a business, and made a lot of money running a restaurant. Both sisters grew up under very different systems but followed paths that are mainstream in their societies. When they met again in middle age, they ended up having totally different views on life, ways of handling life's contradictions, and stances on the relationship between Hong Kong and mainland China. This drama was created between two major civil rights movements in Hong Kong, the 2012 protest against national education and the 2014 Occupy Central. It came at a time when these movements were reshaping the local political consensus in Hong Kong, influencing its value to directly address the conflicts between mainland China and Hong Kong. Another historical context is that the production company, Hong Kong TV, was again and again trying to get a free-to-air TV license during those years. They wanted to broadcast their shows to all of the Hong Kong audience and already filmed several series in anticipation of launching their channel. However, they couldn't get a license and ended up creating a streaming platform combined with an online commerce business to fund their TV productions. HKTV received a lot of support from Hong Kong citizens at the time, because before it started, there were only 2 TV channels free, and TVB dominated the industry. Its content was often seen as outdated and conservative, yet still earn significant advertisement income. People call it as CCTVB, implying it was uninnovative and conservatively like Chinese state media. This disidentification left high hope for HKTV, whose launch series dealt to expose the area's sentiments, sharply highlighting the contradictions in Hong Kong mainland relationship with deep engaging plots. It resonated widely, causing many citizens to support HKTV by shopping on its website to help fund its operations. It was a time of great unity and hope. After I raised the question, we talked more and compiled 2 TV dramas about journalism in Hong Kong. One is the new TVB show The Queen of News with HKTV's The Menu, 新聞導火線 from 10 years ago. We noticed big differences in values they show about journalism. It's like watching the media industry in Hong Kong fall apart. 10 years ago, there was more freedom in media and news was about liberal ideals. Now, after the national security law, all that's left is practical industrial approach to news that doesn't offer much speech freedom. If you are someone in Hong Kong, you can really see how much freedom they've lost. But the Queen of News is still very popular and admired in China, especially by the university students of journalism there. They say, this is what really journalism looks like. Oh my god. But it's also reasonable because they have had even less freedom to experience, so the observation makes us very sad. Even though the author didn't clearly say why some sharp political content could not be used in the book or discussed, I'm pretty sure our experience make the reasons obvious. This kind of unspoken agreement on unspeakable might be hard for English-speaking world to understand, but for creators living under strict censorship, silence is also an answer we all get. What can be said is the answer itself. When words can't directly convey meanings, shared feelings become the medium. They review these difficulties faced during the creative process, like the pressure and censorship from laws recently implemented in Hong Kong. This is why some important discussions are missing. Beside the part that aid too much political trauma, which are already so much for Chinese people. I also want to focus on the positive attitudes shown in this book. We can't ignore the changes in Hong Kong's media industry in the ups and downs of Asian cultural history over the last 20 years to just talk about TV alone. Hong Kong movies used to hugely influence Asian pop culture in the 90s. But after 2005, with the rise of Taiwanese and Korean dramas and K-pop later, it seems like Hong Kong's pop culture got lost in the mix of changing generations. Even Asians only remember Hong Kong's film and music from 20 years ago. So people often say, Hong Kong music is dead or Hong Kong movie is dead. Hong Kong drama shows are even less discussed. But this book does a great job of challenging these stereotypes with facts. Just like the title of the book, The Sun Still Rises. She believes that Hong Kong dramas are a miracle in small market. Our local market is just over 7 million people, and we've never had cultural protection policies. But local dramas haven't been replaced by foreign ones yet. She digs into details in TV shows since 2005, showing how creators still working hard to make interesting characters and stories, using aesthetic and ideology well. She praises their efforts even though they earn little, have a limited audience, and facing increasing cultural censorship. I think it's necessary to bring it up and make it visible. Even though the industry's situation isn't great, there were still talented and dedicated people pushing on. This reminds me of how Hong Kong, starting as a small fishing village and colony, was built brick by brick into an international metropolis. It's built on many small efforts. The ordinary people facing decades of social reform failures and oppression but never gave up. They kept fighting for this space to survive, shaping Hong Kong's today and future. I can't be as optimistic as the author to say who says we cannot create another golden age of local dramas and reimagine culture, but I still appreciate an attitude that keeps a positive spirit. The golden age might be buried, but it also might be what we are creating right now. Despite the fast-changing political climate in recent years, a city that has tasted freedom will not easily to be locked again. Belief and hope are hundreds of times stronger than fear. Besides self-blame and pain, gathering our dignity and memories is also effective survival strategy. We talked about something too big, historical narratives. Now let's talk a bit about personal feelings about this book. Honestly, I'm not someone who watches a lot of Hong Kong dramas, and I am not as devoted to praising the classics as some fans of Hong Kong culture are. For me personally, especially as a young me 10 years ago, the discussions about Mainland-Hong Kong relations in the drama produced by HKTV were incredibly educational for me. So while reading the book, I compiled the author's views with my memories of the geopolitical situations I observed when watching these shows. After all, the topic of Mainland-Hong Kong relations was probably been my biggest concern growing up in Hong Kong, and is very close to myself. When I was really young, I used to view my relationships with the kids whose family had been in Hong Kong maybe 2 or 3 generations through the lens of Mainland-Hong Kong relations. I really had to face the bullying and hurt that these increasingly tense relations caused me as an individual. Later, as I learned more through social movements and built my own knowledge, I gradually learned to see these issues separately, and so did my friends around me. In this process, kids like me learned to establish our identities as new immigrants, which are not exactly the same as pure localism, but have some similarities, and identify with the city we live in. This growth process has many happy and sad stories, from learning a new language to becoming a citizen of a place. Readable, filled with sharp conflicts, but eventually settles into a warm home. So I sincerely hope everyone in your new life in a new city can find their comfortable place where they live. So that's all. See you next time. Bye. Aphrodite's here.